Welcome to Dead Man Talking. First off, just want to thank everybody that's liked, commented, and subscribed and shared my videos. It means a hell of a lot. We've got a great show tonight. This is part 2 now of There Is a Lot More Than Bigfoot Lurking in the Wilderness. So let's get straight into that. Enjoy. The second story I'm going to share with you happened in the wintertime when I was 21 years old. I was working as a ranger with the USFS. If you don't know, that's the United States Forest Service, out in Arkansas. Wintertime was generally pretty slow, but it was hunting season in that area, so I spent most of my days indoors issuing permits and answering questions and such. Occasionally, we'd get a complaint about hunters, so I would venture out to see if any laws were being broken and give my lecture about hunting etiquette. Maybe even get to give out a ticket if I cared to that particular day. But most days were routine, slow, boring and uneventful. Around mid-season, we started getting weird reports coming in about once or twice a week from hunters about finding deer carcasses that just looked, well, unnatural, to say the least. Most of the reports were very detailed or thorough, but they all consistently included the fact that there was no blood around the carcasses and no visible wounds, yet it was obviously a predatory kill. One such group of hunters went up to one of the carcasses they found and described it as being skin and bone, as if everything inside had been sucked clean out. The reports all included one other detail too. In each case, the hunters had heard what sounded like a male deer vocalizing mating calls and had followed the calls in hopes of landing a buck for their hunting trophy case. The other rangers and I took note of all of these details, and after the 5th report or so, we went out one day and canvassed the area the reports were coming from, attempting to find evidence to corroborate the reports we were getting. But we came up very short. Although these reports were certainly weird, we didn't see it as a potential threat to anyone's safety, so we didn't see any reason to prioritise finding the culprit, killing off these deer. However, about a month after the odd deer carcass report started coming in, we got an emergency call that 2 hunters had been reported missing. Unfortunately, it was a father and his son had left their home the day before to go on an afternoon of hunting and family bonding, and had failed to really return home that evening. My co-workers and I all immediately geared up, paired up in twos, and set out in search of the missing persons. Each of the pairs was assigned a section of the forest to search, and my partner and I happened to be assigned the area where the deer carcasses reports had been coming in. We drove down around to every known parking area to attempt to locate the missing father's vehicle, and at the 3rd spot we checked, we found it. We searched the vehicle and found a map circling an area that wasn't too far away, and we assumed that that was the area the father and son were going to be hunting in. So we radioed our co-workers to let them know what we had found, and then we set off in the woods to continue our search. Short time later, we found some tracks that looked like they could belong to the missing pair, so we began to follow those. The trail of footprints led us for about a mile and a half, where suddenly they gave way to drag marks. With our alert senses heightened, my partner and I followed these drag marks until we reached a large rock formation with a slight cave. About 10 feet in from the entrance to the cave, we saw their bodies. Before entering, we shone our flashlights into the cave to see if the predator was home, and although we didn't see the predator, what we saw was far worse. Carcasses, tons of carcasses piled up on top of each other, mostly deer, some smaller animals, and luckily no other humans, from what we could see at least. We entered the cave to retrieve the 2 hunters' bodies, and when we got close, we noticed that their bodies looked just like the ones we had been getting reports of. Their skin and bone, no visible wounds, but yet completely void of all blood, muscle, tissue, anything. It was like someone had deflated them or vacuumed them out or something. We radioed the rest of the team with our GPS coordinates and let them know we had located the bodies. and we were instructed to wait with them until the rest of the team arrived so everything could be properly documented. My partner and I walked back out of the entrance to the cave and decided to sit on a nearby fallen tree to wait for the rest of our team. We talked for a few minutes about what could have done this to the hunters, but neither of us could come up with any ideas. Suddenly, we heard a large branch behind us snap. We turned around, and what we saw, I still don't know to this day. It was 20 yards from us, this thing. It was a black bear. A big black bear. But something was just off about it. It was more like a large creature had taken a black bear's skin and head and was wearing it like a slightly ill-fitted full body costume. The way it moved and walked wasn't right. It was almost like it didn't know how to properly use its limbs. And then I noticed the eyes. Oh God, I don't know what those eyes belonged to, but they certainly were not bear eyes. They were large and white with coloured irises, a lot like human eyes, but much bigger. We both sat there in shock for a moment before my partner reached to his side to draw his firearm. As my partner did this, the creature stood up on its back legs, tilted its head so far I thought it would have broken its neck, then opened its mouth and let out a call. This, however, was not a bear call. It was a male deer mating call. Right then, my partner snapped to action and fired off his gun at the creature. The creature turned away from us and took off on its back two legs, awkwardly lumbering off deeper into the woods. My partner fired 2 more shots in that direction. I think more as a reaction than an actual attempt to hit it. As soon as it was out of sight, we both sat there in silence for a few minutes. My partner's hands were shaking, and I was so frozen to the spot with fear. 5 or so minutes later, we heard the rest of our team arriving down the trail. They asked us about the gunshots, and my partner quickly answered that it was just a bear, and then looked at me, silently agreeing with me that we would keep what we saw to ourselves. Although it was odd to everyone that a black bear would be out wandering the woods when really it should be hibernating, it wasn't completely unheard of for bear to be awoken and go out on an aggressive rampage, so that's what we put in the official report. A couple of days after the incident, my partner quit his job, packed up his house and moved back to where his parents lived in the suburbs. I spent the rest of my time in Arkansas trying to put the incident out of my mind. I never saw the creature again, but ever so often, when out on patrol, I'd hear a male deer mating call, and I couldn't help but wonder if it was truly a deer this time, or the creature I saw in the woods that day, trying to lure in its next victims. That's a wrap for this one. I have to head out to the woods for work in the morning, but I'll try to get down into town in a couple of days to update again. Wow. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Please do like, share, comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel to get more crazy, fantastic, scary stories. Remember folks, be safe, not sorry.